I just want to say thank you guys for sticking around for the Q&A. Really appreciate it after a couple of technical difficulties. And before we start the Q&A, I just wanted to shout out anyone who was a part of this, because we couldn't have done it without you. And if there's any members of our crew that are here today, can you please stand? Thank you so much. We couldn't have done it without you. I just wanted to acknowledge you guys before you try to skip out of here. Okay.
And shout out to JoJo St. Clair. She's also here and she had to go.
Okay, so this was such an interesting topic to make a documentary about. How did you find the story, and what proceeded after that in terms of like bringing it to life?
Okay, well, I mean, high heels, when you think about high heels, it's such a concept that we don't really think about. It's just a shoe, we wear it. This happened from a conversation. Yeah, it was a conversation. We were trying to shoot something together. Adelin is a documentarian. I work in scripted, and we wanted to do something together. I wanted to do a documentary because I hadn't done one before. And when we were thinking about, the theme or the topic of what to do, we were just, brainstorming. And then I was telling him a story about me and my chiropractor. He goes to the chiropractor, and then, he was like, why do you go to the chiropractor? I was like, well, we're in heels and, walking and staying all the time. And then he goes, heels. Let's do it about heels. And, it's a topic that we don't really think about. And, women, we wear heels. And it's a no-brainer. So it was kind of interesting to go into that depth. And then to talk to women who wear heels in their profession or design heels, study heels. It's actually a bigger, overall it's a bigger concept than we think about. So this was a learning experience for both of us.
Well, yeah, she kind of brought the cursory story. I can kind of give the layman story of this. Me and her just kind of hang around my apartment, just figuring out what's the next big project we can do. And so we said, well, we're in Atlanta, there's a whole bunch of topics. We talked about black farming, we talked about even gentrification to certain degrees, but then we said, well, why not heels? And then the conversation of our chiropractor, who, by the way, is featured in the documentary, our chiropractor. And so what started as a fascination piece was something that had more nuance to it, more layers to uncover. So we dug our heels into this literally. And then we did our research, and then we thought that, this is the concept that we can take on.
Okay, thank you. What was the biggest challenge in making this film?
I would say finding people who wanted to be a part of it. A lot of people were interested, but then, we're dealing with time, and then we work full time. So just trying to get those people. And then we made this with barely a budget. Okay, we had no money. And so, being able to, Adelin used his camera equipment, and then we were reaching out to people to see if they wanted to be a part of it. And, some people wanted to see how big it was going to be. Some people wanted to know if any important people were going to be involved. There were some things like that. But I would say that would probably be, that was probably the hardest challenge. Just trying to shoot this in the most cost-effective way as possible, and just, making it come together and look good on no budget.
Yeah, just like any other indie film pursuit, whatnot, money is always the number one mountain to climb, whatnot. But as far as the time frame, it was trying to meet people at our times. Most of the time it had to be the weekends, later in the night kind of thing, for setups and interviews and whatnot. So those were challenges. She said time management. But this wasn't a hard sell. I just want to kind of put that out there. I mean, there was plenty of designers, businesswomen, women in general who wanted to be part of this one. So it was already an interesting thought piece on that. So that wasn't the hard sell. It's putting it all together and then just breathe a little bit and flow as we, go from A to Z.
Okay, how is making a documentary different from other types of filmmaking?
The way I would kind of put in a kind of a lay person's point of view, documentaries are kind of made in the inverse way a film would be made. So a narrative film, a scripted film, nothing will be shot until a screenplay is finalized, a script is completed. Documentaries is kind of the reverse. In other words, there's no script, it's unscripted. And so you begin with the research phase, and then you put a kind of what's called a general outline, a skeleton outline. and you go into so-called field, and you go out there and you collect your data, you collect your interviewees, and then interviews, and then you're at the tag end of the production phase, then you go into a script where you format it, where you put your sound bites, your B-roll, and all of that, and then you enter post-production. So it's kind of the inverse way of kind of completing a narrative film where, everything is kind of scripted, it's staged, it's set, and you're ready to go in. Essentially the way I would define it. Of course, money, you can get away with a lot of things with a documentary, not necessarily a narrative, depending on what level of the narrative film, the scripted film that you want. And so there's also interplays in that. So I let Lola add to that scripted side.
Yeah, and just the other thing I would add, since that's my role, is aesthetics. Scripted is a lot about aesthetics, so everything has to look good, whereas documentaries, like on the fly, guerrilla style, however. So that was a little bit where we kind of butt heads on, because I'm like, oh, look at that shot. He's just like, it doesn't matter, it's a documentary. So,
Yes and no. Quality is obviously something you go into, but the idea is to be a fly in the wall in documentaries. You do very little touching of reality as possible. And so that's what we did when we went to Linda's Pearl School of Modeling. We were just flies in the wall, even though she called us out, right? She shouted us out. And same thing with Jessica's dance class or, the pole dancing. It's the idea of just being on the outside looking in, and you document it for the lens. So quality, I think it's less to do with quality and more to do with what you're capturing in the real moment, in real time.
Okay, it's very interesting. So my final question is, what did making this film teach you, and how are you going to apply it to future projects?
I like that. I like that question. That's a good question. I think what this taught me was teamwork. That, it's easy for artists, indies, independent artists to kind of go out of their way and go on a limb and do it on their own. This really taught me to pace myself, work with trust, and work with people at different levels, different phases. Same thing when I go to John Gambo's place and whatnot, and we're there for 2 weeks and is, back in his room just, getting that sound crisp or whatnot, and, I was on him or whatnot, and, Alan, chill, good, man. I said, we gotta get it right. And so that's what it is. It's trusting people at various levels and really coming toward a collaborative effort. I think me and Lola, we kind of knew our concept in the beginning, and then enacting that vision in the sense of, being able to communicate that and articulate that and just flesh it all out. And we had disagreements and we had agreements, and we came with a final output. And so I think that's for me. It was teamwork at pretty much every phase, every level of this production.
Yeah, and I would say this is my first documentary, so patience. I'm used to working with hard deadlines, and when you're filming a documentary, there's no such thing as hard deadlines. You kind of just go with the flow, and when you can get it, that's when you can get it. So, we experienced that with certain interviews that we wanted to get, or, just certain shots that we wanted to get that we couldn't get at that time. Or, sometimes you'll get a shot that you're not expecting. So my thing was just patience and, just being able to, having to deal with just when it's ready, it's ready. So we worked on this for like a year, right? 14 months. And we shot that whole year just making sure that we could capture the people that we wanted to capture. Some people we waited for, some people weren't available until a few months down the line, so, we waited for them. So, patience definitely is what I learned. And believe it or not, I learned a thing or two about heels. I've been wearing heels since I was really young. And, just wearing a heel, I used to wear heels and not even think about it. But, I did experience pain, and then, I didn't even know how to walk in heels. So, you have to learn to walk in heels, learn a different type of heels. And so it was very interesting for me. So I definitely got that out of it. And I'm sure Adelin learned a lot about heels. Because in doing this project, a lot of people wanted to know, well, what does a man care about heels? But, he learned a lot. So I hope that the guys in the room learned a little something about heels, and you can be easier on your ladies when she doesn't feel like wearing heels when you go out on Saturday night. So that's pretty much.
Now I'm gonna open the floor to the audience. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or anything that they want to say? Yes.
Are you submitting to film festivals?
Yes, we have submitted to film festivals, and our first film festival was 2 weeks ago. We were at the Miami Fashion Film Festival, so that was our first one. We hope and we expect to be accepted into the film festivals here in Atlanta coming up, so look out for that.
And if y'all know people,
That helps too.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Are you planning to add anything to this one or expand it in any way? Or are you going a totally different direction for your next documentary?
I love this one. Documentary filmmaking is a very interesting enterprise in that regard. You're never really finished. Topics like this can easily be docuseries. Each of the sections you saw can easily be broken up and be its own documentary that can live on its own, a one-off, if you will. The history of heels, the health aspect of heels, the business of heels. So we knew that we were going to touch on this in a broad perspective, but we knew that there was a lot more that was going to be left off the table, and we were okay with that. I think that was one of the things that we said in the very beginning was, it's going to be a short film, 45 minute range, and we knew it was going to be, we're going after the broad stroke of this. So to answer your question, no. We're open to other suggestions as far as angles and every kind of thing on that. And can I ask you a question on that? Is there anything that should have been touched on further or elaborated, or do you think there was more to?
No, I just think, like you said, it does have other one-offs or what have you. But I don't know how interesting like a 45-minute short on the chiropractic side of wearing heels or that would be. So I was just wondering if there was like, well, we missed a couple of interviews that we'd like to go back and get. Ooh, I don't know. But, you seem to touch a good variety of things on both sides. There might have been more people, you had a lot of people who talked about this power and it's so-and-so, and less women who were like, look, succumbing to that, whatever.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of people that we did want to interview, but, it's a 45-minute doc, and we didn't want to make it this long. Look, we could talk about heels all day, really. But we didn't want to make it this long, drawn-out thing. We just wanted to get straight to the point, and that's specifically why we chose to speak to women who actually dealt with heels on a day-to-day. So whether profession, or they design them, they make them, they blog about them. Those are the people that we wanted to target. We wanted to talk to drag queens. We wanted to talk to flight attendants. We wanted to talk to pole dancers and strippers. But we couldn't talk to everybody, unfortunately, or else it would have been a 2-hour documentary. And then we didn't want to focus too much on the health. We just wanted to just inform, just kind of let you know, because we don't want to sell something and say, it's great, it's disgusting. We just wanted to be realistic about it. So that's more or less how we ended up with the 45-minute doc and with the ladies that you saw and the gentleman that you saw. So that's what
I just want to quickly answer that. But our thesis was high heels are an experience for women. And that one sentence was enough to, I hope we did a good job in articulating that in that big gambit. But no, the temptation is always there to extend,
It was great. It was very well, it was balanced.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have time for about one more question, one or two. Does anyone else have a question? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to be doing a documentary soon, and so I'm wondering, I saw you like the Day Show or whatever those morning shows. Did you have to get clearances for those?
Yes, there's a whole process. There's multiple different ways you could do this. A documentary is kind of a fun dance around that. You go through clearance on multiple different ways. Permission, asking for the rights for it, and then buying the rights for it. Then there's another thing called fair use, kind of the journalistic stand, where as long as it's articulating the topic is being addressed, and you use it in small increments, that's also a way of accessing such content. Then there's also another thing which a lot of filmmakers and young filmmakers don't know, is something called Creative Commons. Journalists always use this, news agencies use this, and it's where you take footage that is shot originally, the owners put it into this third-party world. You can Google this, by the way, and it's accessible to those who use the content. Granted, if you also could come into that same practice, where your content is used for things. In other words, it kind of helps that sphere world of using copyrighted material. So those are three different angles you go out, but we went all three different angles, and it could be as simple as sending an email and getting ask for rights, and they say yes, and that email is enough to say we got it cleared. Then there's also those other two routes: fair use and Creative Commons. May I ask what the document is about?
It's about a gentleman named Robert W. Lee out of New Jersey. He was the first president of the International Boxing Federation, and the feds went after him when he wouldn't testify against Don King. So I just finished the book, and we're going to be doing a documentary, start working on a documentary.
Oh, wow.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And we do have other screenings, and we're gonna be, we will get into film festivals, so just, keep a lookout for that. And thank you guys for your support. Thank you for coming out to play with us on a school night. We really appreciate it. All right, get home safe.
Yes, and also thank you, Georgia State University, Film Department, Cinefest, all of that. Shady, Patterson, the professor as well.
Thank you. And thank you to our lovely host right here, Rachel. She did a great job. She's a filmmaking major, journalist minor, so, doing big things. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.